SimWorld presents Around the Table with E and the Fat Man.
What's up, everybody? It's me, it's the B.O.B., and I am here with my man, E. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm loving this weekend, Bob. Hopefully you're having a good one, too.
I am having a great one. A little too hot for me, but, I don't think with this global warming stuff, it's ever going to get any better.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Well, this is Around the Table with E and the Fat Man. That is E. I am the Fat Man, and this is the podcast where we talk about sports. And today, we're getting, what are we, 2 weeks away to the end of this? Oh, geez. 2 weeks away to the end of the season. And we got some bubble teams that may or may not make it, obviously. They're bubble teams. So I guess we're going to...
crunch time.
Yeah.
It's crunch time. We got a handful of teams down just to one regular season game to play. Nobody has more than 4 left. I mean, you got a couple games, most likely, on average, to finish out this season. And for... about 10, 12, 14 of these teams, these games are still meaningful if they're going to make the race to 1 or not.
Absolutely. There's 3 seedings at this point still up in the air. We got the 7 and 8 in the Legend Conference and the 8 in the Legacy. While maybe they're up in the air based on some numbers, but they might not necessarily be up in the air talent-wise. I mean, some of these teams are very talented. So I guess what we're going to talk about today is couple teams that we think are on the bubble and they're could make it, or the teams that we're probably like, they're not really, they're on the bubble, but are they really on the bubble? Or are they just watching from the
contenders or pretenders?
There you go. So Eric, let's say you pick one. So like I said, we got 1 in the Legacy, 2 left open in the Legend Conference. Is there a team that you think that they're on the bubble right now, but they're really like, they're not going to miss it?
Yeah, there is one team currently sitting outside the top 8 over there in the Legend Conference that I feel like has a fantastic shot, could and should make a little run here. And for me, that is the AT Aliens.
Okay.
They are currently just 12 and 16. Only 3 games left in the year, so they can't even make it to 500, even if they won them all. And they're looking up at Asia Pacific, as well as Yacht Club. Asia Pacific at 13 and 14, Yacht Club 15-13. So they got a little bit of ground to make up in those couple of games, but I feel like they're playing really well of late. They've actually only won 2 of their last 5 games. They've had some chances to even move up further here, but with some of the mid-year additions that they made, Abasai Dance coming into the squad, newest addition, Zaza Gregorian down low. But of course, it's always been the, core of D'Angelo Muto, the probably star of the team, Demario Duval running the show at point. And then, of course, Malachi Booth, Mercurial, let's call him, but a talented shooting guard in the mix too. Only one 16-year-old on this team. They were built to win this year. They came out planning to do this. LaTroy Hamilton, head coach, first year in charge. And, nobody's been talking about them at all. And quite frankly, good reason. haven't been a Southeast Select exactly, have they? Haven't been a G5 kind of squad that we're talking about all year.
Worst team in the Ground Zero season.
Yeah, and
or
that's
second.
right.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Second worst. Sorry about
don't
that.
Don't insult Seattle like that. But, I just happen to think that they've been playing well lately, even in the games they've been losing. Like their last game versus reigning Trays, lost a close one, just by 4. I think with their games left on the schedule, and they do still have, 3 games left to play here, I feel like AT Aliens are going to do enough to scrape into that 8th and final place out there in the Legend, knocking either the Yacht Club or Asia Pacific out of contention.
I'm gonna go. I was gonna be positive on my first one, but I'm gonna flip it. I'm gonna do a bubble team that I think is not going to make it into the race to 1, because I'm just gonna ride right off of you, and I'm gonna say the AT Aliens are not gonna make it.
oh, interesting. All right.
So
they were on your specifically not gonna make it list. All right. Well, I mean, again, I like this team. I like how it's constructed. I think the Duval Muto kind of anchoring your inside-outside game is a really strong combo, and we've seen them knock off a few decent teams lately. Why are you so negative on my Aliens?
I just don't think everybody can hit hit a little lucky spout every now and again, but I just don't think they have some size on the team. They got a couple 6'7" guys. You got Richard Alpine at 6'8". I don't think that they have the size, though, of some of these other teams in SimWorld Hoops. I don't think they have the size to be able to keep up because you're going to run into a lot of 6'10", 6'11", 7-footers. I just don't think that they're going to have enough. I think they hit a little lucky run here at the end of the season with the upset over the Originators. Them having 2 wins in their last 5 games is that's great for them. When you think of the AT Aliens, it's like, hey, they won 2 of their last 5. That's amazing. But I don't have a lot of faith in from top to bottom. When you look at that team, it really Mahmoud has really shown out lately. I don't think he gets enough credit. But once you go from Mahmoud and Duval, I just feel like it's there's not a lot there. Muto hasn't really. From the preseason, we expected a lot from him. I'd say he was one of the stars of the preseason, and he hasn't really done that, and I think that's evident by their 12-16 record. I think Richard Alpine, he's on the bench right now. I think they would have a better chance if they put him in a starting role because he seems to be able to dominate some down low. I mean, he's 6'8", 240. That 240 is a hard body to move whenever you're 16, 17 years old. But right. I do think that the AT Aliens have gotten lucky here at the end of the year. And while luck can get you far in things like the March Madness and stuff, you have your Cinderellas. I don't see that being the AT Aliens this year. And I do think that they're gonna miss out altogether on the race to 1.
Well, you do have, the Aliens are kind of famous for this in a way of, they've got 4 guys, 6'7", 6'8", between about 200 and 240 pounds, Alpine probably being the biggest of them, as you mentioned. But, they are a little bit undersized down low. They have done a good job, I think, of kind of going to the small ball mode. And Muto does pull down almost 7 rebounds a game. Isaiah Rose, 5.5, Alpine 5. It's kind of an effective run big bodies, if not the 7-footer class out there at you. Even their late addition, Zaza Gregorian, 6'7", 220 pounds in the post out of Georgia, former Soviet Georgia, not American, former Confederate Georgia. But do want to shout out Mahmoud as well. Adam Mahmoud, again, flying under the radar a little bit, but he's actually the only person on this team shooting above 50% from the field. Well, actually, Muto as well. Not that he's a volume shooter, but D'Angelo, Muto, and Mahmoud are it. And if anything worries me a little bit, it is the fact that they are not a great shooting team. Shooting below 45% as a team, which is 4th worst in all of SimWorld. So I do worry about that. But I like the run they've been on. I like what they've been doing lately. And, we came into this looking to pick teams maybe that were a little bit on the outside looking in, maybe going to surprise. And for me, I think it's the boys in Atlanta. I think they have a great shot, and I will not be surprised at all if they pip that eighth place spot out there in the Legend Conference.
Hey, that 8th place spot, I mean, it is really up in the air. And I mean, wouldn't be surprised for a handful of teams on that Legend Conference to make it.
Well, do you want me to go ahead and transition into, so I've thrown out one team I think is going to make it, AT Aliens. Do you want me to go ahead and take one I think is not?
I think I would be
for a second.
Yeah, I think I'd be interested to see who you think is not going to make it.
Well, let's stick out here in the Legend Conference, because if I've got ATL coming in, I've obviously got somebody coming out, right? And I think Asia Pacific is going to stumble. They are currently in the 8th place spot. They are 13-14. They have 4 games left. One of just 4 teams out there in SimWorld that have a full 4 games left on the roster. And I have a hard time seeing them win maybe more than one of those the rest of the way. I think they're going to fall out. I think that's what's going to give ATL that little bit of an advantage. Although I would say Gulf Coast lockdown, just like AT Aliens, sitting at 12-16, but with 3 games left, they could make things interesting too. APAC, again, I think that they've had a surprisingly good season, I would say. I think that they have overperformed the expectations probably that everybody had for them at the start of the season. So that's a credit to Coach Jason Reyes for doing that. And let's keep it Reyes, because JD and Jacoby older and younger, JD, the 17-year-old, Jacoby, just 15. They've really been the heart and soul of this team. Jacoby leading them in scoring, and JD shooting above 50% from the field and captaining the squad, both of them in the rankings. And then, of course, you got Kai Newby as well, 22nd ranked in SimWorld, 6'5", 17-year-old wing player. And look, you've got, well, he's not quite a 7-footer, but Stephen George, 6'11", 250 pounds, has, much like Ilgauskas or Richard Hennessy, a few of these other sort of paint beasts that we've got in this game this year, has been holding it down out there in the middle. I mean, again, I'm impressed with what they've done. I kind of feel bad beating up on them here a little bit, but the reality is, they just got crushed by Beyond the Arch. Got blown out recently, ending a nice little run of games for them. They had been, I think, won 4 of their 5 before losing to BTA. I have a hard time seeing them sustaining this through the end of the year. Again, I predict 1-3 over the last 4 games of the season for Asia Pacific, and it's not going to be enough. Valiant effort, but they are going to end up, in the cruelest position to be in, which is one spot outside of the playoff races. If anybody knows what a Pinewood Derby is, and I don't even know if they still do these things or not, but back when I was a kid, you'd have these little car races. You'd make a little race car out of a block of wood at home, and then you'd take it and race it against a bunch of other kids. And I made one year. My dad helped, and I took it to the event, and I did really well, and I ended up in 4th place. The place where you came so close to getting a trophy and having your picture taken, but you didn't. That's where Asia Pacific is going to be this year. The worst of all moral victories, a valiant 9th place in the Legend Conference. What do you think, Bob?
Yeah, I think that they have a really good chance of maintaining, and that's really all that they need to do for the end of the season is maintain. If they win half their games, I think that they're going to make it in. I don't see a team like the AT Aliens winning 3 games to finish their 3 games remaining. I do think, though, I think that we could potentially see if Asia Pacific were to get bounced out, because they are right there. The AT Aliens are 12-16, Gulf Coast is 12-16, Asia Pacific's 13-14. So they're right there. I do think that there's a possibility that we could see Latin America go on a little run here at the end of the season. They got 3 games left. It's hard for me. I know that he was away for a little bit, and the team isn't as talented as it was in Gotham 5. But I do think when you have a Coach Bilardi there, it's hard for me to vote against him making some kind of run. So if they could win their final 3 games, I think that there's an opportunity for them to be a huge surprise to jump in. But I think Asia Pacific is going to maintain, and I think Asia Pacific is going to hold on. And I honestly, looking at the Legend Conference right now, I think where we're at is where we're going to be when the season ends. At least with the teams that are in, there could be a little bit of shuffling here and there. Obviously, H-Town and Bay Area are both sitting at 18-10. So they could flop around or jump Best Coast if Best Coast goes on a little losing streak or Showtime goes. So I do think I'm wrapping up my Legend Conference right now, and I think it is going to be Yacht Club at 7 and Asia Pacific at 8. I don't think there's a chance that the Yacht Club falls out from 7 to 9.
No, I didn't really consider that much either myself. Yeah. I think that they're pretty solid in there. They're not quite technically locked yet.
Yeah.
One more win would get them there, and they have 3 games to do it, and I think that they're going to get that. But I expect there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup in that 8th spot, though. The biggest reason is that Asia Pacific, with 4 games left, 3 of those are against the California teams. They got to take on Best Coast, Bay Area, and Showtime. I have a hard time seeing them winning any of those. The one win I do think they'll pick up is over Oceania, currently in 13th place in the conference and not out of the running. They too have 4 games left, and were they to win them all, they'd be 14-17, and that could put them in the 8th place spot. But I just have a hard time seeing them overcome that. I think, I've already gone on record here with saying AT Aliens, I think, can win their final 3, or at least 2 out of their final 3, and pip into that last spot. But I also think Gulf Coast, currently sitting in 10th place, Latin America, I refuse. You're right. Don't count them out. They could win 3 in a row. They can make things interesting. They have a big uphill climb. Gulf Coast is in the same spot that AT Aliens are in.
Yeah.
12 and 16, 3 games left. I think it'll be ATL in the end, but both of these teams are just they're looming, waiting for APAC to drop, and I think they're going to get their wish. It's going to be an interesting finish to the regular season to see who grabs that last playoff spot out in the Legend Conference. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, and I do believe that if there is a team in the Legend Conference that could make their way into that 8th seed, I do think it is Gulf Coast, though. Of all the teams that are still left, from 9 to 14, from AT Aliens to Queen City, I do think Gulf Coast has the talent to be able to truly pull out. Again, I don't want to go against what Belardi has done with G5 when he was there in New York last season, and just the way that he coaches. But I do think, if we're being honest, to me, the only option right now to knock out Asia Pacific from that 8 seed is Gulf Coast Lockdown with Chapa and Cruz. But yeah, I am sticking. I'm sticking. Oh. I'm going to stick with my pick. I think that the Legend Conference, I think it's locked. I think we're
all right.
I do think we're locked.
Well, AT Alien's going to make you look bad in about a week or so, but we'll revisit that on a future broadcast. Let's throw the ball back over to you, Bob. Who else is gonna make it in?
So
the race to 1.
I think Bad Boys have been. I'll say they've been up and down, but they're 14 and 14. They've been average all year. They have been they've been okay. I think that Cascadia still has the opportunity with someone like Arthur Lattimore. I still think Cascadia has a chance to jump into the Legacy Conference race to 1. And I do think that they're going to. I believe that Bad Boys is going to slip. I know they just got a new coach. He's going to have to learn the team a little bit. Hopefully not get fired because of Lorenzo Phenom's dad. But I think that Cascadia, with the heart that Arthur Lattimore has, his ability, he has grown so much over the season. We didn't know who he was to start the season. And then just every week, it seems like he's adding something to his bag. And this last week, I don't know if you got a chance to see the top 10 yet, but he had his handles for a big man are just outrageous. He's the leading scorer on this team, leading rebounder. And I just think that every single week, he's just adding something else. And then they have Jason Tada, who he's having a resurgence. Do we want to say he was upset that he got cut, and here he is. I did not think that he would. I didn't have any faith in him, but here he is, the second leading scorer on Cascadia. And then you have the Tyshawn McGrady, who was a good addition to the team. You have Justin Halliday, where I still think I don't think Justin Halliday has gotten a fair shake yet. I think there's a lot of teams that would love to have a player like him starting, and he's not starting for Cascadia. And then you have the veteran leader, Montel Cage, such a great defender. And then Q Dozer, I mean, he's made a little bit of a name for himself, mostly because he did also have a highlight this week where his own putback dunk. But I believe that Cascadia has the talent, and with Arthur Lattimore on that team, I see them pulling off a little winning streak and be able to knock Bad Boys off, because I do think Bad Boys they're gonna fall off here at the end of the season.
Cascadia. I really like Cascadia. I like them as a team. I like Coach Isaiah Pope running things there. I like a lot about this team. I love Arthur Lattimore, one of the best young bigs in the game. There's a bunch of other talent on this team as well. You talked about Dozier. He's just 15 years old, big old load at 6'8" and 240. Colt Amarin. There's a lot of fun players on this squad, and I love those veterans. Montel Cage, Jason Tada, the California, imports they brought in to sort of settle the things, and both of them played well. All this talent, so much I like, and here they are, 13 and 16, sitting below 500, looking on the outside of race to 1 race. And I'm sorry, Bob, I can't see him getting there. And here's why. Cascadia just has 2 games left. Technically, well, they have to win at least 1 to have any kind of a shot of making it into the 8th spot. And realistically, they probably have to win their final 2 games to be in this. And look, First one I think they are going to win. They play Atlantis. That's actually coming up next Saturday. And that could still be a pretty big game with meaning by that point. So pay attention to that one. That could be two teams, Atlantis right now, well, they're tied with Cascadia. They're both 13 and 16. They're both just a game and a half out of that eighth place spot that Bad Boys currently hold. So that'll be a big game. I can definitely see Cascadia winning that. Their final game of the season, which I believe, it comes on the final day of the regular season for SimWorld. And in fact, it's going to be on SimWorld TV, our last regular season SimWorld TV game. They're taking on Run DMV, and they're doing it down in DC. And I don't think that game's going to be meaningless for DMV. They're in fourth place right now, fourth seed right now. They're going to be fighting for seeding then too. I have a hard time seeing Cascadia beat DMV, and unfortunately, that's going to put them out. That's going to do it, because if I can go ahead and quickly transition to my other team that is going to make it, I'm going to have to disagree with you. We got some points of conflict this weekend, Bob, because for me, Bad Boys basketball currently 14 and 14, 500 on the year, 3 games left to go, holding on to that eighth spot out there in the Legacy Conference, and they're gonna make it happen. They're gonna hold on to it. I think they're gonna win at least 2 of their final 3 games and actually coast into that eighth spot easily. And I'll say this: I think for an 8th seeded team, Bad Boys is scary. Bad Boys is not a team that I would want to be taking on if I found myself with the number 1 seed. And by the way, in that Legacy Conference, it's an interesting battle at the top between Rocky Mountain Monsters and Originators, both 21 and 7, both with 3 games left to play. And quick little aside, well done, Monsters. I think people know that you've been good all year, but boy, have you come on here, and contender for number 1 seed in the Legacy Conference, contender for best record overall, actually, in SimWorld this year. But to take it back where conversation belongs, Bad Boys basketball, new coach, Sonny Jackson. I think that's exciting. Now, they did lose their last game, first with Sonny in charge. So didn't quite get that new coach bounce, but I think you will see that over the course of the remaining regular season games and on into the race to 1 when they make it. Hey, they got that great backcourt, Bogus and Bo Pagnotti Jr., the Pagnotti posse on it. And then down low, hasn't quite been the, My Name in Lights season I think a lot of people expected or he wanted, but Lorenzo Phenom, not a lot better than him down there. Committed to Michigan recently, going to be a future Wolverine. And then, of course, good supporting cast all around this too. Nathaniel Garcia's had a lot of nice moments, hitting a lot of threes this year. Big Malcolm Chamberlain coming off the bench and supporting, playing things. So, still a team middle of the road. They've kind of been middle of the road all year, but that's going to be enough to squeak them into that 8th spot. And the kind of team on any given night, it wouldn't surprise me if they lost to somebody like Queen City, like South America. I could just see that happening to Bad Boys, but I'm watching a game and look at that. They just knocked off Best Coast Ballers. Look at that. They just knocked off Gotham 5. Wouldn't shock me at all either. So gonna make it 8th spot, Bad Boys, and they're gonna be dangerous once they get there.
So we'll wrap that up. So we're saying 8th seed. I think that Cascadia is gonna go on a little run and Bad Boys is gonna fall off. So you'll think that Bad Boys are gonna hold on for the rest of the season in the Legacy
Bad Boys
Conference.
Gonna hold. That's our difference in the Legacy, 1 through 7 in some order or another, from the Monsters to the Trays, locked in. I'm going with Cascadia for that 8th spot. I'm going with Bad Boys basketball, and we both have Atlantis, who, again, I don't think anybody expected anything out of Atlantis. To have them even in the conversation at the end of the year is overperforming. But you don't see Atlantis making it, and then there's the teams, who really, they're in it, but their backs are to the wall. Europe, Lakeshore, Indy, and Philly. Nobody's seeing them making a run.
No, and then Legend Conference, we both agree. Yacht Club. I think it'd take a miracle for the Yacht Club not to make it.
It'd take 3 straight losses. It has to. They had 1 more win and Yacht Club's in.
Yeah. And then I'm sticking with Asia Pacific, and you're going with the surprise team for the year. I'm not saying it's a surprise team to make it into because they're right there at number 9, but a surprise team on the year, the AT Aliens.
Yeah. I think their little Cinderella story continues. And I will even go so far as to say if it's not them, it's going to be Gulf Coast. APAC is not going to hold on to that space. And by the way, interesting observation. If my prediction is correct that SimWorld Asia Pacific does not grab that 8th and final Legend Conference spot, not one of the global teams are going to be in the race to 1 this year. Asia Pacific and Atlantis just on the outside looking in if my prediction holds true. And disappointed in that. I like the global teams. I like when I'm working for SimWorld TV covering global games. I like to see these players. I was actually sure that out of one of the Latin America, South America twosome, somebody was going to make it out of there. And SimWorld Europe looked like they had a nice roster with Henrik Vekic anchoring things this year. Disappointing result for the international teams in SimWorld this season.
Yeah, they disappointed. Well, I'll say one thing. Europe really disappointed last season, but with the way that Vekic really played this offseason, he was playing like he was going to lead this team to, I'd say, a top 4 spot in the Legacy Conference, but it just never came to fruition. And then you had Latin America with Edgar Fernandez. Really thought that he would do something coming into the year, and although they did have some good additions in JMO with like JMO and that, they just hadn't put it together. South America starting 5-0, they were hot.
Yeah.
And
right.
then they lost probably 47
11.
in a row? 11.
It was at least 10. I think it got to 11.
Well, 11 in a row just fell apart, but they have some good players. They just couldn't keep it together. But, yeah. Well, Eric, is there anything final you want to say to the people?
Yeah, I want to say we talked about that last spot, but there are a couple of exciting races happening at the top. I mean, if you look at that Legacy Conference, Rocky Mountain and Originators, 21-7, 3 games apiece to play. That's going to be a photo finish there. And the Legend, everything's up for grabs, really. I mean, you got Southeast on top right now at 20-8. West Coast, H-Town, Bay Area just right behind them. But I wouldn't even count Showtime out. 17-10, just 2.5 games out of that top spot with 4 left to go. So I think it's a 2-man battle for the top position in the Legacy, and it's a wild free-for-all. It's just a rumble, a battle royale happening in the Legends. He's going to come out on top of that one. So should be a couple really good final weeks of SimWorld Hoops. That's what I want to leave the people with here, Bob.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, I appreciate you, as always, being on here with me, and I hope everybody has a good rest of their weekend.
See you, folks.